Okay, you start.
Good evening all of you. Once again I welcome you in our botany session. There we are going to take the topic biological classification. Our today's topic is on biological classification, means classifying the living organism. Let's see technically what is a classification. Classification, can I say this is a scientific process? What do you mean by scientific process? Means some methodology, step-by-step process. So this biological classification, let me to mention here, number one, you should know it is a scientific process by which anything, right now we are discussing living organism, that's why we are putting focus on what thing, that is on the biological. But it is a common thing, like in our day-to-day life we are classifying the thing, only then we can handle that thing very smoothly. So here we are classifying living organism, which is a scientific process of classifying anything into groups. Based on what criteria? Based on convenient categories, based on what thing? Easily observable character. Let me to repeat once again for this. This is a scientific process, means methodology, step after step of classifying, grouping something, anything. Here what we are classifying? Living organism. Into what thing? Into convenient categories. Based on what thing? Easily observable characters. So we have to classify living organism. So we have to classify based on especially like external morphology, which can be the easiest thing. But nowadays we are having the microscopes even. So we can go with the anatomy as well as embryology or along with that. Even biochemistry you have learned now. In the biochemistry even we deal with some chemicals. So based on chemicals where they are present, we are classifying the living organism. So criteria can be any based on easily observable character, based on the technology what presently we are having. So now next, if I take in which thing we are classifying, anything here I am taking what thing? Living organisms. What thing we are classifying here? Living organism into convenient categories. Here that categories, the technically you call it as taxon. Taxon means a group. So it is a taxon which is a singular word. Its plural will be what thing? Taxa. Based on what thing? Some easily observable characters. For living organism, for example, most important, let me to take for the morphology. We already dealt with the topic morphology in our first lecture. We have discussed morphology of flowering plants. There we have discussed some of the feature. So one of the feature what we can observe here easily to classify, that is the external morphology of the living organism. Let's see the next now. In this system we are classifying the living organism. Like if I am saying our earth is divided into continents, continents into countries, countries like they are having the states and states are having so on further cities, towns like this. In the same way here, when we are having big population of diversity around us, we want to classify. We have to classify in the higher group, which you call it as a kingdom. Phylum, in which case phylum we are taking in case of animals. Let me to take the visible dark color here. So kingdom, phylum in which case we are taking, that is in case of animals. And division even equal to that we are taking in case of the plants. Then further divisions are classifying into class, classes into order, then family, then genus, and last will be the species. Like earlier we have discussed about the hierarchy of organization. There we started from the basic level cell, then last we discussed up to the organism. Right now here we are discussing about hierarchy of biological classification, that how you are classifying the things, right? So biggest unit on which we are classifying is the kingdom and basic one is the species, right? So this you call it as hierarchy. I already said you what is hierarchy. Even in the chapter we discussed earlier, that is we discussed in morphology as well as in anatomy, that the basic level hierarchy, if I am taking of organization, is the cell. Here we are taking hierarchy of biological classification, so basic will be the species. What is here? species is the basic one. Then genus, then family, order, class, phylum and kingdom. I repeat, phylum in case of animals and division in case of plants. Like this we are classifying the living organism. Okay, now let's see the next point here. If I take the concept of classification, what was the earliest concept? From where the culture of classification started? That is based on the need of the human beings. Can I say earliest system of classification? That started based on the need of the living organism. Based on what thing? Need. What need they will show? Like shelter, even for food, even for clothing, right? Like early men were there, they were classifying. When they started becoming civilized, they start classifying the living organism based on these criteria. But this type of classification was not that much scientific. Then who entered first time into the scientific means of classification? That was our scientist Aristotle. He classified the living organism into two major groups, that are the plants and the animals, based on morphological features. If I take for plants, the morphological features help them to classify them into herb, shrubs and trees. Fine. And animals, they are classified based on whether their blood is red or not. So whether they are having red blood or they do not have red blood. Like if I say for cockroach, that is not having red blood, so it will be coming under one group. And like if I say birds, mammals, they are having red blood, they will be classified under another group, right? What is the name of that group? The red blood containing group, that you call it as anemia. Right, that group you call it as anemia. And which is not having that red blood, that you call it as anemia, right? So those who are having red blood, like in mammals, they are coming under anemia, and which are not having red blood, like cockroach, they are coming under anemia, right? So that was the classification given by Aristotle, but it was scientific. It was much advanced as compared to early man did. So it is the first scientific grouping of the, you can say, animals and the plants, right? But not the kingdom classification. What hierarchy I have said you, that is a proper taxonomy we are following. Taxonomy means what thing? The systematical classification of the living organism, right? So this was scientific but not a kingdom classification. He simply grouped into two simple groups, plants and animals. Now coming to the next, various other scientists came. What are that scientists' name and gradually what development they did? Let me discuss in short. The very first we will take here the scientist Linnaeus, who had given the first two kingdom classification. What are that two kingdoms? That was the kingdom Plantae and Animalia, right? That is based on presence or absence of cell wall. Fine. So he classified the living organism into plants and animals, right? And the criteria of classification for him was presence or absence of the cell wall, right? This was the first kingdom classification based on proper that hierarchy of classification. He started with two kingdom, right? Now it was more refined by the next scientist, Haeckel. He had given how many kingdom classification? Three kingdom classification, and he introduced into that thing protista. Then kingdom Plantae and Animalia stands as such, but what have been introduced now? that is the protista. What is the sense of introducing protista? Then the scientist observed some are what thing unicellular. They kept the unicellular organism under the protista. That's why they separated the unicellular organism from there, and there was the origin of next kingdom which you call it as protista. Then coming to next scientist Copeland. He had given obviously next what is that 4 kingdom classification. Then we discussed in the chapter cell the unit of life. Prokaryotes must be separated from the eukaryotes. So on that basis the Monera has been developed. What is the one kingdom here? Monera. Then after that protista is including unicellular, but they were eukaryotes, right? I repeat, Monera is unicellular, protista unicellular, but this is containing prokaryotes, but this is containing eukaryotes. Then further Plantae and Animalia are as such, right? So can I say from this kingdom classification of 2 kingdom, we are separating protista, then we separated the prokaryotes under the kingdom Monera. Then after this which scientist came? H.Whittaker. In your +1 book, this chapter biological classification is completely based on H.Whittaker classification. But after that more improvised have been there, but this chapter we will classify based on H.Whittaker. So according to H.Whittaker, what came next? Monera, protista already were there, then fungi, then after that Plantae, then is the Animalia. So how many kingdoms now were there? In case of H.Whittaker classification, 5 kingdoms are there. Now coming to the 6th kingdom classification which was given by the Calvus. Calvus further divided Monera into 2, where we say Archaea, Archaebacteria is there, separated. Next is the Eubacteria, right? We will discuss Monera classified under various subgroup, but under 6th kingdom classification they separated Archaebacteria and the Eubacteria and created 2 different kingdoms. Rest all will be same like protista, fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So total how many kingdoms given by Calvus? 6th kingdom classification was given by that, right? So we will just touching the superficial part of this introduction, but you should know about this history of the biological classification. Fine. Okay, now coming to the next, we are taking slightly detail of 5 kingdom classification. What is that sequence of this classification? Like see here, what is happening during that H.Whittaker classification which was formulated in 1969. Organisms were classified into prokaryotic and eukaryotic organisms. Fine. Prokaryotic are always unicellular, which include which kingdom over there? Monera. I repeat, we are discussing Whittaker classification, which include 5 kingdom classification, right? So first kingdom is a Monera, which is unicellular and prokaryotic organism involving over there. Eukaryote include both unicellular as well as multicellular. Under eukaryotic unicellular what came? Protista. Under multicellular, now further classification happened based on presence or absence of cell wall. In the presence of cell wall, can I say 2 categories are coming? Plantae and the fungi. Plantae is phototrophic, whereas fungi is heterotrophic. Autotrophic means which can prepare their own food. Autotrophic, I repeat, which can make their own food. Heterotrophic, which cannot make their food, right? And without cell wall is what thing? Animalia, right? So with how many kingdoms? Like 1 Monera, second is what thing? Protista. Third, according to evolution I should go, then third is a fungi. Then 4th is a Plantae, 5th will be the Animalia, right? So this is a basic criteria. In a flow chart, it will be easier for you if you learn like this. You can gradually come under the 5 kingdom classification of H.Whittaker. Fine. Now next after this, we are having a small explanation for 6 kingdom classification. Here, why we are representing this thing separately? Reason, first of all, the criteria is same like prokaryotes and eukaryotes. cell wall present or cell wall is not present. Based on that we are having bacteria over there. Then if I go with the evolution, see here, first of all will be the bacteria, and I said you bacteria and eubacteria means in the bacteria archaebacteria and eubacteria are separately for which kingdom classification? 6 kingdom classification. So can I say archaebacteria will be the first kingdom here. Second will be what thing? Eubacteria. What will be the third according to evolution over there? Protista. Then after this fourth will be fungi. Then fifth will be what thing? Plants. Then sixth will be what? Animals. But this flow chart is framed based on the features, right? What are that features? Let's revise again. All organisms classified based whether they are prokaryotes or eukaryotes. What are prokaryotes? Which are very simple, small, and they don't have true nucleus. They have primitive type of nucleus, no membrane bound organelle present. And opposite to that are the feature of eukaryotes. But eukaryotes can be having the cell wall or they don't have the cell wall. If they have cell wall, they can be autotroph, they can be heterotroph. Just now I said you what are autotroph? See the word auto means what thing? Self. Troph means what thing? Food, which can make their food by their own. That you call it as autotroph, right? Under which who are coming? Plants. There is few example of plants they have given, moss and ferns. What are mosses and ferns? Just keep meanwhile, these are the plants. Rest when the plant kingdom we will discuss more about its classification, right? Now after this heterotroph, hetero means different, troph means what thing? Food. When the living organism have different mode of nourishment, that you call it as, that organism you call it as heterotroph, right? Okay, under that fungi will come, right? And this is heterotroph, yeast and the molds will come over there. Then if they don't have cell wall, then it will include unicellular as well as multicellular. Unicellular I already said you, which is eukaryote and unicellular protist, like amoeba, right, is coming over there. Mainly is the going to be amoeba there. Alga we will discuss in the other groups. Main here example you keep in for the amoeba here, right? Then after this animalia like insecta and the fish, right? So please keep in your mind here the important is what thing? Amoeba, fine. So this is 6 kingdom classification we discussed. But 6 kingdom classification, I said you what is the level of the hierarchy here? The level of hierarchy we are discussing kingdom level. But if I am discussing for the 6 kingdom classification, one more higher, you can say the taxon they have given. What is taxon? One each level of the hierarchy. Each is one taxon. Like if I ask you which is higher taxon to class, it will be phylum. Which is the lower taxon to class, that will be the order. Taxon is simply the level, one after the another. So how many taxons should be there? 7. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. 7 must be there. But 6 kingdom classification has given one more extra, which is still above the kingdom. What is that? I am writing here. Like 6 kingdom classification, they added here 6 kingdoms with the 3 domains, right? One is a archaea, then is a bacteria, then is for the eukarya. Under the archaea, which is coming? Archaebacteria. Under bacteria is coming eubacteria. And eukarya include which kingdom over there? Protista, fungi, plantae and animalia, right? So how many kingdoms are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 6 kingdom classification, but how many domains? 3 domains, right? So 6 kingdom classification has further divided them into still higher type of taxon which you call it as domains, right? So this is about the history of biological classification. As per I said you, this chapter is about what thing? Whittaker 5 kingdom classification. So we will classify all the things based on Whittaker 5 kingdom classification. Let's take a small view. When you will take a look in your NCERT book of +1, you will find this tabular form. Simply this is the features given for 5 kingdom, and for that feature 5 kingdoms, what are the differences based on that features they have just classified. But we are classifying based on 5 kingdom classification given by R.H. Whittaker based on some features which make them different. Like here, first is cell type. Just now I said you in Monera, what type of cell they are? Prokaryotes. Whereas in Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia, all are what thing? Eukaryotes. That's why you will find eukaryotic word in all the columns here. So gradually we are comparing between all the 5 kingdoms, right? Then let's see the next one, cell wall. In case of Monera, there is non-cellulosic cell wall. Just put on the focus on the word what I am speaking. Non-cellulosic means which is not made up of cellulose. I hope so you know a little bit about plant cell wall which is made up of cellulose. So opposite to that word we say it is non-cellulosic, it is not made up of cellulose. Then which substance it is made up of? It is made up of peptidoglycan, right? Peptidoglycan, which is a polysaccharide. You know just now you have covered biomolecules. So it is one of the polysaccharide. What thing? That is a peptidoglycan, right? Attach what thing with them? Some amino acids, right? Now Protista, even in some members cell wall is present. What is its composition? We will discuss in its classification. Fungi is even there. Their cell wall composition is chitin. Again this is chitin is what thing? Polysaccharide, carbohydrates, right? Macro form of this. Then Plantae, obviously here cellulosic cell wall is there, but absent in case of the animals, right? Cell wall is absent in case of the animals. Now coming to the nuclear membrane, in which case the nuclear membrane is not there. I already discussed that thing in cell, the unit of life, in case of prokaryotes, right? So here the nuclear membrane will be absent. Well defined nuclear membrane is absent in case of prokaryote, I mean to say under the kingdom Monera. Then it will be present in all eukaryotes starting from Protista up to the Animalia, right? Now coming to the body organization, I said you the body organization started from the cell up to organism level. But for Monera being unicellular, it will be taken as a cellular body organization as there is no tissue formation and obviously there is no organ or organ system formation. One single cell behave as a complete organism. And again cellular for the Protista, right? Multicellular and loose tissue, like we are having like a thread woven. Like have you seen the bread mold? On the bread sometimes fungus is there. You can even take it out with the help of pin. So they are so much loosely held with each other. That's why you call it as a loose tissue is there in case of the fungi. Then after this Plantae, it will go up to only the organ level, right? Then after this for Animalia, it will go up to the organ system level and creating what thing? Organism. Clear? Now coming to the last mode of nutrition. In case of Monera, they are having much more diversity in its mode of nourishment. The metabolism is going to be very much diverse in case of Monerans. Next to that is much diverse in case of the Protista. What is that diversity? It can be autotrophic, they can make their own food, but see here two processes are there. Chemosynthetic means by the energy of the chemical reaction or with the help of the light energy. Photosynthetic means with the help of light energy. Means they can produce the food. Number one, with the help of the chemical energy or with the help of the energy of the sun. Based on different examples are there in kingdom Monera. Then after this, heterotrophic means they depend upon other for their food, but different modes they have to get their food from other, right? Saprophytic means which are living on dead decaying matter. Dead decaying matter. Dead decaying matter means which are dead, the part of a plant animal or a complete plant or animal. When they die or their part decompose, on that when some organism depend, that you call it as saprophytic mode of nourishment. Parasitic means what thing? Which is depending upon another and making them disease. Like bacteria is invading in our body, making us disease, it will be a parasite. We become their host, right? So they can show the parasitic mode of nourishment and even the saprophytic under the heterotrophic. Can you see a variety of mode of nourishment is there? So biggest variety is there in Monera. Next after that is in protista. They can be autotroph by the photosynthetic but not by chemosynthetic. Can I say chemosynthetic is only the feature of Monera? But photosynthetic can be the feature of some of the protistan, and even they can be heterotrophic, they depend upon another for their foods. Now what is there? In fungi it will be completely thoroughly heterotrophic, no exception there. All will be heterotrophic and they will be saprophytic or disease causing, means parasitic one. The next plantae, all will be autotrophic, photosynthetic, some exception we will discuss, partially photosynthetic like insectivorous plants are there. So exceptions here we are not talking, generalized thing I am discussing here. Plantae, they are autotrophic, they can prepare their food by taking energy from the light. Then last is Animalia, it will be completely thoroughly heterotrophic again. So can I say more homozygous? Homozygous condition means homogeneous. Let me to say homogeneous. Homogeneous means it will be more pure for the nourishment. Homogeneous means all will be same type, heterotrophic. All will be of same type, autotrophic. All will be of same type, heterotrophic. Holozoic mode of nutrition means taking food through some opening. Like we are taking food from our opening from our mouth. That is a holozoic mode of nourishment. Amoeba, they are capturing the food and taking it as a food vacuole. Again that is what thing? Holozoic mode of nourishment. Fine. So here different mode of nourishment mainly is there in Monera and the protista, showing much more diversity. I hope so you have understood this tabular form, and it's very important, categorized based on 5 kingdom system of classification, right? Now coming based on that, on our first kingdom Monera. Which kingdom we are taking first? Kingdom Monera, which is according to 5 kingdom classification is the first kingdom. Now kingdom Monera classified into various groups. Important groups are what thing? Can I say the bacteria is the main group members over there, but we classified into archaebacteria, eubacteria, cyanobacteria and the Mycoplasma. But main feature belongs to that, to which bacteria? Eubacteria are the much more in number in the kingdom Monera. Whatever feature we say for Monera is mainly based on the eubacteria, right? So main member of kingdom Monera is what thing? Bacteria, and groups we will discuss archaebacteria, eubacteria. Actually cyanobacteria is a type of eubacteria only, right? And Mycoplasma is another group, right? So we will discuss 1, 2, 3 and 4 group under this. And further in archaebacteria, it will be classified into halophytes, thermoacidophils and methanogens. Then this eubacteria will be classified, they can be autotrophic or it can be heterotrophic. But mostly, the most percentage, the big percentage in eubacteria will be heterotrophic, right? Which can be disease causing even, or it can be even like useful as well. That will be related to some other chapters we will discuss. Right now I am taking the first group, archaebacteria, which is further divided into halophytes, thermoacidophils and the methanogens, right? Now let's take archaebacteria. See the word archaebacteria, there the word archaebacteria, archaea said for what thing? Ancient. This is the most primitive type of bacteria which evolved. That's why you can call it as living fossil, whose structure is still like that. and classified under what thing? Halophiles, thermoacidophiles and methanogens. Now the word, the halophiles, halo means what thing? Salty or a salt. Philes means to love. Just a moment. Okay, get back to the point now. Halophiles. Halo means what thing? Salt. Philes means to love, right? Okay, so they love to live in a salty area, that you call it as what thing? Halophiles, right? Sorry for my throat today. Okay, so here is the halophiles which love to live in a salty area, comes under which group? Archaebacteria. Then which will be growing more in a hot springs where the temperature is much higher, that you call it as thermoacidophils. Thermo means which are living at high temperature. Acido means where pH value will be less, right? They can live in low pH value where acidic medium is there and even at the higher temperature. Such type you call it as thermoacidophils. They are even coming under the Archaebacteria. Then methanogens. Methano means the methane gas. Gens means to generate, right? So these are such type of Archaebacteria which helps in the production of the methane gas, right? So this description they have given over there. And very important point here, where these methanogens are present. These are present mainly like in the gut, means in the digestive tract of the ruminant animals, which are depending upon the you can say they are herbivores, they are cud chewing mammal, they are, you call it as like ruminants. And example there, cows, buffaloes will be there, they are there and they help in the biogas plant, means the excreta of such animals help in the formation of biogas, which is mainly contain methane gas. And this methane gas is combustible, we can use it as a fuel, right? So just keep in your mind, there is a much more utilities of the members of the Archaebacteria, but they have developed far much earlier when the evolution happened. Bacteria first evolved is what thing? Archaebacteria, where we say it is the living fossil. When they evolved, their structure is still same, and that's why you call it as what thing? Living fossils. Are you getting that? Okay. Now coming to the next part, eubacteria. I said you that name Monera is based on the bacteria which is a eubacteria. Eu means true. So this word U stands for true bacteria, which is having rigid cell wall. And I already said you that cell wall is made up of what thing? Peptidoglycan. But when you will see the Archaebacteria, in Archaebacteria, I must write here even their cell wall is made up of pseudomurine. These are all the name of the polysaccharides, complex type of the polysaccharides, right? Just now keep in your mind polysaccharide. But which type in case of Archaebacteria? Pseudomurine. Archaebacteria is what? Pseudomurine. Coming back to eubacteria, their cell wall composition is made up of what thing? Peptidoglycan. Again it is a polysaccharide, right? And even they can have the flagella for its mobility. And next they are the autotrophs. I already said you, even it can be autotroph photosynthetic, or it can be chemosynthetic, or even it can be heterotroph, and heterotroph has still more higher percentage as compared to autotroph, right? Now coming to the next part, in the last class we have already discussed about the structure of the Monera, typical bacteria, right? Only some highlights I will recapitulate with you. I said you the outermost is what thing? Glycocalyx layer. Second is what thing? Cell wall. Innermost is what thing? Cell membrane. And I already repeated that point that the genetic material is there in a region. What you call that region as? Nucleoid, which is having what thing there? DNA as a genetic material. Plasma membrane is innermost, outer is a cell wall, still outside is the glycocalyx. When it become hard, you call it as capsule, or when it is soft, you call it as slime mold. And both you know that it is made up of glycocalyx. Fine. Cytoplasm is there. Ribosome are what thing? 78 ribosomes are present in case of bacteria. For movement, what is there? Flagella. And pilus or fimbriae. These two are for what thing? This is for attachment. These are for attachment. This diagram or this detail of this concept we have already discussed in the chapter Cell the Unit of Life. Still we have discussed some of the highlights over there. This is the basic ultrastructure of a typical bacteria, right? Now coming to the next part. If I discuss here the general features of Monera or eubacteria, right? General features means what they are having general in their you can say existence, or what are the main highlights of their feature. I said you Monera, their feature main we symbolize based on the eubacteria being there much more in percentage. So what we are writing for eubacteria feature, same will be for the Monera, right? Can I say it will be abundant in nature, right? And bacteria is the sole organism here. Mainly it is made up of bacteria here. It will be complex in metabolism. Just now I said you various type of mode of nourishment is there, but simple in its structure. But simple in structure, right? They are diverse in their habitat. They can be found or they are found everywhere, right? Can you see the way I am writing the features here, taking the concept of A, B, C, D and E. Likewise, you can learn the features all together. Like A stands for they are abundant in nature. B stands for what thing? Mainly bacteria are the main members here if I am taking for Monera altogether. And in eubacteria even the major bacteria are present in eubacteria. Then they are complex in their metabolism. I just said you various type of metabolisms are there, and simple in its structure. Just now I said you the simplicity in its structure, no membrane bound structure, and nuclear membrane is absent, only nucleoid is present over there. Diverse in habitat. Habitat means place where they live. Very diverse it will be. What diversity you can see in their habitat? It can be like, it can be in air, it can be in soil, it can be in water, even it can be inside of their host, like it is causing diseases, right, in their host. Even in extreme habitats. Extreme habitats means in the hot water vents, where the volcanic eruptions are coming out. Even the geysers. Geysers means the hot water when it is coming out, even at that places bacteria will be there. Not the same examples, but different bacterial examples will be there based on their origin or the group what they belong, right? So extremities they are even there. Everywhere. Everywhere means even in air, soil, water and the host. I would like to take the 4F even. They are 4 in its categories. Based on what thing? Based on their shape, right? So I recommend if you will learn like the features like this, you cannot forget it. If you are learning for eubacteria, You are learning for Monera. If you are learning for Monera kingdom as such, means you are learning for Eubacteria, right? So 4 categories are there. What are that 4 categories based on their shapes? Let's see the next slide now. These are the 4 categories. The first one is what they have shown, Bacillus. I am taking first as a coccus, right? So first is what thing, coccus form, which is spherical in shape, right? They are like a ball shape structures which can make a chain, they can make a group of 2 or many or a cluster of 4 or 8, that varies. Then second is what thing, Bacillus, which is what in shape, rod shape, right? Second I am taking this. Third is what thing, Vibrio. Vibrio means they are comma shaped, right? Like a small comma is there, na? Like this. It will be like that. Then fourth one is this one, spiralum. Can you see like a spiral it will be? So the spiralum means what thing? They will be spiral in shape. So these are 4 categories of bacteria, Eubacteria, based on their shapes, right? So these are the journal features what we are taking for the kingdom Monera, and under kingdom Monera we are discussing Eubacteria. Now coming to the next part, we discussed right now about the Eubacteria. Let me to take for the Mycoplasma. I introduced with you the Mycoplasma as well. If you remember in the chapter Cell, the Unit of Life, we said there the smallest cell is of Mycoplasma, right? So the main feature is that they are having the smallest, or you can say they are the smallest living organisms. Second one, they lack cell wall. This is very important. They lack cell wall. If cell wall is not there, cell wall function is to give the shape, rigidity and protection to the cell structure. So if cell wall is not there, can I say they will be pleomorphic? Pleomorphic means, pleo means many, morph means what thing? Forms or the structures. So they will appear in different form and structures, being cell wall is absent, right? And even they are parasitic. Parasitic means they can be disease causing. And even, can I say this Mycoplasma, smallest, lacking cell wall, pleomorphic, parasitic, you even call them as PPLO. What is PPLO? Pleuropneumonia like organism. This was its initial name, pleuropneumonia like living organism. So these are what thing, feature of Mycoplasma, one of the member or a group under what thing, kingdom Monera. So these are the features in short we have discussed for the kingdom Monera. According to 5 kingdom classification we are going. So we have taken first the kingdom Monera. Second we are taking the protista now. For the kingdom protista, what will be the features of that? Under this, the first feature, can I say they include all single celled eukaryotes. They are the first eukaryotes. What? Protistans. And they originate primarily as an aquatic, means in water they originate first. Next important thing, they are the link between plants, animal and the fungi. When I will classify their members, you will find their initial members are giving the resemblance to the plants, right? And gradually when we move to the higher organism in classification, you will find the resemblance keep on moving to fungi, then last into the animals, right? We will discuss all this classification. Now next is what thing? Being eukaryote, can I say it is having well defined nucleus? And our other membrane bound cell organelle is even there. They have flagella, cilia and even pseudomonas. Sorry, I must say pseudopodia. I must say here the word pseudopodia, right? So pseudopodia is a structure like in amoeba which help in locomotion. Flagella, cilia, pseudopodia, they are there as a locomotory organ. Even like higher organism, they try to show the sexual means of reproduction. So here both types of reproduction are there, asexual and sexual means of reproduction. What is sexual means of reproduction? Where gamete are forming as well as fusing. That you call it as sexual means of reproduction, which is happening here. So here fusion is there, and last after the fusion zygote formation is there, which is a feature advanced as compared to Monera. Being protista evolved later after the kingdom Monera, right? So protista evolved later after the kingdom Monera, right? So these are the general features of the kingdom protista. Now coming to the next, what is its classification? It will include the member like rhizophytes, we will discuss dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds and the protozoans. If we move like this, right, so what will happen? These are having more like aquatic plant like organism, slightly up to here, then up to here. Then this is a like fungus, and here it is like the animals. We will classify that. Simply I am introducing its heading of its classification, right? Now coming to the next part, let's see the comparison of this group. In a short, we have prepared this tabular form. It makes the paragraph to break into some important words. Now here what? Rhizophyte, dinoflagellate, euglenoids, slime molds and the protozoans. These are the main headings, or you can say the main groups under the kingdom protista. Now let's see the pictures of that. Can you see rhizophytes are of like golden in color. That's why you call it as a golden alga, especially the desmids there. We will discuss diatoms and desmid. Simply learn the example right now, and this is more than sufficient to understand the concept of rhizophytes. Number one, it is under the kingdom protista. All what we will discuss, all are eukaryotes, right? And all are having well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound cell organelles, right? So this will be common in all. Then coming to the dinoflagellate, this will be its structure. These are euglenoid, slime molds like the fungus. It is happening on the dead decaying matter. Amoeba, paramecium is coming under the protozoans, right? Now let's see on the habitat. Habitat means place they are living. In case of rhizophytes, they are in mostly they are in fresh water as well as in marine water. Can I say they are aquatic here? Then after this dinoflagellate, mostly they are marine. Marine means in the salt water condition, the salty concentration is more. That is a marine condition. Even some of them can find in the fresh water. Then stagnant means the water which is not flowing. What is present over there? Euglenoids. Slime molds, they are present in dead decaying organic matter, means which is coming from the living organism, either their dead bodies or the waste or their leftover parts like the leaves shed off, that all decompose. That some of the members involved in that process is slime molds, coming under the classification of protista. Last, protozoans, like some common example is amoeba, paramecium I should say you here, right? So it is behaving as parasite as well as a predator. Parasite I already said you, living inside the body of the host. Predator means free living. They are moving in a search of their food there, that you call it as predators. Now coming for the mode of nourishment, they are having the pigments over there, they are photosynthetic. Even dinoflagellates have pigments. What are pigments? Like chlorophyll is there. That's why you call it as what thing? Photosynthetic organism. And euglenoids, you call it as what thing? Mixotrophic. Mixotrophic means what thing? Which can behave both as autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. Not different organism, same organism. When light is not available, they will start shifting toward which mode of nourishment? If light is not available, heterotrophic. If light is available, then phototrophic mode of nourishment. And slime molds, they are saprophytic depending upon dead decaying matter. Then last is for protozoan, they are heterotrophic, completely depending upon another. Can you see from plant like features, we are gradually moving towards animal like feature. That's why we said that it is the link between what thing? Like animals, even the fungi, even the plants. What thing? Protista. Now coming to next, cell wall. I said you protistans, some members, they are having cell wall. Which type of cell wall will be there in chrysophyte? They are having silica shells, right? It is like a soap case. One upper shell is fitted on the lower shell. That's why you call it as like a soap case like structure. The upper shell is enclosing the lower shell. The cell is inside. The silica shells are attaching to each other, that cell, to protect it, right? Then is the cellulosic cell, or you can say cellulosic plates are found around what thing? Dinoflagellates. Now in euglenoids there is no cell wall, but they are having thin pellicle layer which is proteinaceous, made up of protein, which give it them twisting movements, but it is not hard thing, proteinaceous layer, but cell wall is not there. Then for slime molds there is no cell wall, but exception is there. The spores what they form to disperse, they are having true cell wall which is made up of cellulose, right? Cell wall is even absent in the protozoans except marine forms of amoeboid which are living in the marine water. They are having which type of cell wall? Silica. They are even having silica shells which form marine forms of the amoeboid, right? The amoeboid is a further group under the protozoans which are having the silica shells there, like the chrysophytes, right? So just silica shells exceptionally will be present in such amoeboid which are present in marine water bodies, right? Now next are some example. What are the example under chrysophyte? Diatoms and desmids. What are the example of dinoflagellates? As such, dinoflagellates, like if I say Goniolix. Goniolix is one of the example over there. Then euglenoids, euglena is an example. Slime molds, example will be Physarum. And what will be the example of protozoans? That like amoeba, trypanosoma, and last is what thing? Plasmodium. Last I meant to say, given in this flow chart, Plasmodium is what thing which is causing malaria here, right? So this is one of the example under the protozoan. So we are going with the main points here, so that you should know what you have to learn in this chapter. This is like a map in front of you, and which is guiding you under protista. These are the main headings under which these are main words which make them to classify from each other. Now coming to the next point, under the protozoan, which is the last group under the protista, it is further divided into subcategories. What is that? Amoeboid protozoan, flagellated, ciliated and sporozoan. Amoeboid protozoan example, what comes over there? Amoeba. Flagellated example is coming Trypanosoma, right? Ciliated example is Paramecium, and sporozoan example will be Plasmodium. Keep in your mind, this Plasmodium is causing malaria as a problem, and Trypanosoma is causing the sleeping sickness, some of the diseases, right? So here the kingdom Protista, these protozoans are further subdivided, right? Now coming to the next kingdom, what is the next kingdom? Kingdom Fungi. That I already said you, this is a special type of kingdom which is completely heterotrophic. Saprophytic mode of nourishment will be there. Now let's see what are its journal features. Journal feature very important, it is completely heterotrophic. I said you heterogeneous type of condition, all are going to be heterotrophic, depend upon another for their food. What type of mode of nourishment it is having? Saprotrophic mode of nourishment. Now they are cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan means they are present everywhere, right? In a form of spores they are there. Like, can you see that when the bread is sealed, still you are not opening, and after some days if you are not using and keep, if that is placed in a humid warm area, can you see the fungus is automatically developed there? because the spores which are there in the air got trapped in this packet, and whenever the conditions are favorable like warm and humid places, that make them to grow more efficiently. So it is there in the air as well. So it can be near water, soil, or on animals and plant for making them disease. Like skin fungal problems are there in animals, that can be by the fungus and making the animals as a host. For the plants even they can be like a disease causing. Then coming to the next part, they prefer to grow in a warm and the humid places where moisture is slightly more. That's why the fungal problem will be more during the rainy season, right? If temperature is higher in summer when rain happen, so the fungal problem increases. What are the example? Bread mold, orange rots, mushroom, toadstools. These are few common examples coming under there. And even disease causing very common, like in front of you the mustard leaf they have shown you. This white spot disease is even caused by the fungus, and commonly on the bread these molds are due to that rhizopus. We will discuss the example under this, right? So these are the general features for the kingdom fungi. Coming to the next part, its structure. What type of structures they are having? They can be unicellular like yeast. They can be unicellular, which is an exception here. Otherwise the fungus is having filamentous, like a thread like structure it is there. Their body consists of long cylinder, means like this pen marker is there na, which is rounded and elongated. That structure you call it as slender, but like a very thin threads, and that you call it as hyphae. Like in a one fabric, when you take out one thread, that one thread you call it as hyphae, and that complete fabric you call it here as a mycelium, right? So this complete is a mycelium here, where if we take one thread like this, it will be what thing? Hyphae. But hyphae is further of two type, septate and cynocytic, or you call it as aseptate, right? What do you mean by septate? When this thread-like structures, they are having this cross walls. When these cross walls are there, what you call it as cross walls. When they have cross walls, can I say it become multicellular, and each cell is having one nucleus. If such hyphae is there, you call it as septate hypha. Fine. Then after this, if we are discussing, there is no cross wall. If cross wall is not there, many nuclei are present, such you call it as cynocytic hyphae. I repeat, the full fungus, like if I say here in front of you, the previous slide, this complete part, that you call it as what thing? Mycelium. And if you take one thread out of it, like this one filament, if you take it out from there, this you call it as one hyphae. In some of the members of fungus, it will be without septa, means no cross wall is there. So can I say many nuclei will be in one thread. That condition you call it as cynocytic, and such hyphae you call it as aseptate. A means without cross wall, septa means cross wall. And in many, what is there? The septa are present. If cross walls are present, then it will create many cells. Each cell will be having one nucleus. Such hyphae you call it as septate hyphae. So this condition will be present in case of fungi. And next thing very important is this, their cell wall is made up of chitin, which I already said. What is that? That is a polysaccharide, and this polysaccharide is one of the features which is present here. But this polysaccharide they are mentioning here for chitin itself, right? What other polysaccharide, but main polysaccharide is what thing? Chitin. Are you getting? So main polysaccharide you have to go with the chitin only. If I take the reserve food material, what is the reserve food material here? Reserve food material here will be glycogen. Even that is what thing? Polysaccharide. Cell wall is even made up of polysaccharide, and even the reserve food material is what thing? Polysaccharide. What is here? Glycogen. Where the organism is heterotrophic, there the reserve food material is usually glycogen, and if it is autotrophic, then mainly obviously it will be what thing? Starch, right? Now coming to the next part. let's take about the mode of reproduction in fungi. They are having vegetative mode of nourishment, vegetative mode of propagation. I must say here, propagation means multiplication. Vegetative means no special structure is formed. Their vegetative part is making some next generation, and what means of multiplication they are having? Fragmentation, fission and budding. Fragmentation means their filamentous structure will break, right? That is a fragmentation. Every fragment gives rise to new filament. That you call it as a fragmentation. Fission is what thing? If unicellular like yeast, then that will divide into two daughter cells. Just now you completed cell cycle, cell division. So simply a cell divided into two daughter cell, that is the fission process which is happening in unicellular in the fungus. Then after is what thing? Budding. Budding specially find like in case of yeast again, where the parent cell having a small bud, and this bud detaches or makes some chains of buds will form, and finally which is weak point it sheds and the new cell will be formed, but from the vegetative part of the organism. I repeat, the means of reproduction. The first we are discussing vegetative means of reproduction, where we said the most common is the fragmentation. If it is unicellular, then it can show the fission or it can show the budding. Budding, I said you, small projection is coming out, and that projection can make a chain even. Where the point is weak, it will detach and new organism will be formed independently. If I say fission, parent cell will divide into two daughter cells, that you call it as fission, like bacteria is dividing like that, but it should be unicellular. But what is most common type of vegetative propagation over here? That is the fragmentation, right? Now coming to the asexual means of reproduction, here a special structures will be formed which you call it as conidia, sporangiospores and the zoospores. Here the very important point is this, please focus here everyone, the conidia is immotile. Immotile means they cannot move, and they are exogenous. Exogenous means it is formed outside the body, like a filament is there, on this conidia will start forming, right? It is not enclosed by anything, that's why it is exogenous, but immotile, no flagella is there. Once it is formed, air or water, mainly the air, that is taking it from one place to another place. Then sporangiospores. Sporangiospores are even immotile, right? And immotile forms, even you call it as aplanospores. This is a common term to both conidia as well as sporangiospores, right? But it will be endogenous in origin. Endogenous means it will be enclosed. It will be enclosed inside some structure like this, and spores are forming inside it. Can you see these are the spores formed? These spores you call it as sporangiospore, but enclosed inside some structure, right? So that you call it as sporangiospore. Conidia is not is enclosed, it is the conidia is outside like this, right? Then what is zoospore? What is the main feature over here? Can you see the word zoo? Zoo means what thing? Motile. They can move, but even it is what thing? Endogenous. It is forming enclosed inside some structure. So what is common between conidia and sporangiospore? Both are immotile. What is common between sporangiospore as well as zoospore? Both are endogenous. This is very important. So what I mean to say, vegetative propagation is what? That is formed by any vegetative part of it. They are not forming any special structure. If they form special structure and without fusion, they are simply multiplying. That is asexual means of reproduction. And what are that special structures? Conidia, sporangiospore and the zoospores. Fine. Now coming to the next sexual means of reproduction here, it is by these three types over there mainly. Oospores, ascospores and basidiospore. This only you have to retain the names of that, how they form and what is its basic structure inside, where they will form. This is still much more in depth. At least you should know in the beginning in bridge course the name of that spores. which is formed during the sexual reproduction. They are formed after the sexual reproduction. Is that clear? So at least the name must be aware with you. If I say zoospore, zoospores are asexual spore or sexual spore? Please give me the response, everyone. Okay, exogenous I am explaining again. Exogenous means simply when some hyphae is there, the hyphae tips keep giving out small spores over there, that you call it as conidia, right? That is exogenous in origin. Is that clear to you now? Okay, fine. Now I repeat, if I am asking, let me to change my question, conidia. Conidia is motile or immotile? Conidia is motile or immotile? Conidia. Please give me the response. That's okay. Previously you are giving me the response. Conidia will be motile or immotile? I am waiting for your response. It will be immotile, right? Just now we have discussed conidia is what? Immotile, right? So please be alert when we are discussing. Many students are giving correct only, few had given the incorrect answer. Please be focused again. Conidia is immotile, sporangiospores are immotile, zoospore, can you see the word zoo? Zoo is for animals and they are motile, right? So zoospores means they are the motile spore. And these two spores are endogenous. Conidia is what thing? Exogenous in its origin. They will simply coming out like a tip is pinching off and giving out the spores at the tip only. It is not enclosed by any special structure, that is exogenous. Now coming to the next part, the steps of sexual reproduction here. I said you proper special cells are forming over there which will fuse even, and that first step of fusion of some special structure which are formed, their fusion, that cells fusion, that you call it as plasmogamy, right? When they will fuse the two cells, the process you call it as plasmogamy. This is the nucleus, this is the second nucleus of two cell. The fusion of the cell happens, that is a plasmogamy. Then is a karyogamy. Karyo means what thing? Nucleus. Now what thing is fusing after this? Their nuclei is going to be fused. That you call it as karyogamy. Just now you have learned one thing, meiosis. Meiosis will give rise to the haploid spores, right? 4 haploid spores after one meiosis will form. Now these haploid spores can be oospores, it can be the ascospores, or it can be the basidiospores, right? So spores formed after this process of complete plasmogamy, karyogamy, meiosis, that you call it as sexual spores. Now there is still one more you can say differentiation between oospore, ascospore and basidiospore. In ascospore and basidiospore, when plasmogamy happen, I repeat, when two special cell fuses, the fusion of its cytoplasm you call it as plasmogamy, cytoplasm when fused, that you call it as plasmogamy. And after this plasmogamy, for ascospore basidiospore formation, there is dikaryon stage. Dikaryon stage means it will remain with 2 nuclei, and each cell of 2 nuclei will keep on dividing. It will keep on dividing. And this you call it as intervening stage. Intervening stage means in between plasmogamy, karyogamy, in case of formation of ascospores and basidiospore, which stage is forming over there? Dikaryon. Immediately fusion of the nuclei is not happening for the formation of ascospore and basidiospore. The 2 nuclei condition will keep on dividing further and giving rise to the fruiting body. Now that fruiting bodies will form these spores. What do you call these spores as? Ascospores and basidiospores, right? So for the formation of ascospore, basidiospore, let me to recapitulate this point. After plasmogamy is the dikaryon stage, right? That dikaryon stage multiply to form fruiting body, then that fruiting body is forming what thing? Spores. Fine. Now what happened in oospores? Immediately karyogamy happened for the formation of oospore. But for ascospore, basidiospore, it will be delayed. After making the fruiting body, inside that fruiting body meiosis happened. And even before that, what is happening? Karyogamy. Fine. It is not like that karyogamy and meiosis are absent for the formation of ascospore and basidiospore. It will happen. But after the fusion of the cell, that two nuclei stage will multiply to form fruiting body. In that fruiting body, there will be then the karyogamy, then meiosis happen. But such type of fruiting bodies are absent for the formation of oospores, right? Just keep in your mind what are the stages of sexual reproduction here. First is what thing? Plasmogamy. Second is what thing? Karyogamy, right? Last is what thing? Meiosis. All three are compulsory to happen. But after plasmogamy, immediately karyogamy will happen for the formation of oospores. But it will be delayed due to the formation of fruiting body in case of formation of ascospores and basidiospores. Fine. Okay, now coming to the next part. We are now discussing that these are the groups in case of the kingdom fungi. What are that groups? Let's start from first Phycomycetes, second Ascomycetes, third is the Basidiomycetes, fourth is the Deuteromycetes, right? Now Phyco word wherever is there, Phyco means alga. So these are alga-like organism. They are not alga as such. They are alga-like organism, being they are mainly aquatic. That you call it as what thing? Phycomycetes. Clear? Just now I discussed with you ascospores. So ascospores will be formed by which organism? Ascomycetes. Then what I said you? Basidiospores. Basidiospores are formed by what thing? Basidiomycetes. And oospores will be formed here in case of Phycomycetes. But in Deuteromycetes there is no sexual reproduction. That's why you call it as imperfect fungi. You call it as imperfect fungi. You are classifying all these concepts based on the mycelium, based on the spores what they are forming, right? And the habitat where they are present. Many criteria classifying them into the 4 different classes. I repeat, what is the first class? Phycomycetes. They are mostly by sexual reproduction. What is forming over there? Oospores. Whereas in case of the Ascomycetes, what is forming over there? Ascospores. And in Basidiomycetes, basidiospores, sexual spores. And Deuteromycetes, there is no sexual reproduction. That's why you call it as imperfect fungi, right? Now coming to the differentiation of all together. How many groups? That all 4 is written at the top, and they are classified first. Let's see the habitat. There mainly Phycomycetes is aquatic habitat, rest all are what thing? Terrestrial. But the place should be humid, it should be moist, it should have like humidity over there. Then good growth will be happening. So it will be terrestrial, but some form are aquatic, very less. It will be what thing? Terrestrial completely. This one is completely terrestrial. Only Asco and Deutero mainly are terrestrial, but some are even in aquatic. Completely aquatic will be Phycomycetes. Are you getting that? So here it is present in, like let's see, Ascomycetes mostly terrestrial, some only aquatic. Basidiomycetes, it can be on the soil. Log of wood, like after cutting the woods, whatever is lying there, it can be present over there. And tree stumps. Tree stump means when trees you are cutting but still their lower part is in the ground, right? Roots are still there. That is what thing? Tree stumps. Even their fungus can develop. Then mostly in the terrestrial or in some aquatic, even in the aquatic habitat. Fine. Now the mycelium here will be aseptate. I said you cenocytic without the septa. It will be the feature of which group of the fungus? Phycomycetes. Only of Phycomycetes. Rest all are having which type of hyphae over there? Is it audible now? Please show the thumbs up for this. Is that audible? Please put the thumbs up for this. I am waiting for your response. Okay, now it's fine. Now say me at this table form it is clear to everyone. Starting from here habitat, right? Habitat is clear to everyone. Okay, I am taking from the mycelium once again. I am taking from mycelium once again, right? Maybe it is not audible from there, right? So I am taking from mycelium right now. Mycelium will be aseptate. Aseptate means without septa. In which case? In case of Phycomycetes. But in case of Asco, Basidio and Ditiro, it will be septate. It will be what thing? It will be multicellular and each cell will be having one nucleus, right? Whereas for the asexual reproduction, when we say for Phycomycetes, it can be by aplanospore, that is zoospore and sporangiospore, right? Aplanospores means which cannot move, right? Now coming to next, conidia will be the main means of asexual reproduction of Ascomycetes, but asexual reproduction is absent in case of Basidiomycetes. This is very important. And sexual means of reproduction is absent in case of Deuteromycetes. These 2 points are very important. And how this Deuteromycetes is then reproducing? By conidia. And fragmentation is common in all the groups. Clear? Now coming to the next, sexual means of reproduction. Here It can be mainly by oospores, right? Then here it is by ascospore, this is by basidiospore. I already discussed this point to you, right? Now coming to the next example, rhizopus, which you call it as bread mold. Can you see the bread mold? Commonly you found that it belongs to Phycomycetes. And penicillium, I hope so. If you know, penicillin is the first antibiotic. This is formed by penicillium. This is the structure which is belonging to Ascomycetes. Yeast even belongs to the Ascomycetes, which is unicellular, right? Then coming to the agaricus, like mushrooms, these are even belonging to the Basidiomycetes. Rust and smut, these are the diseases caused by the fungus. Rust disease, smut disease, these are even belonging to Basidiomycetes, right? Agaricus are what thing? Mushrooms, and all mushrooms are not edible. Only few species are edible mushrooms, right? So Deuteromycetes include the problem causing fungus like Coletotrichum, one of that, right? But some can be the useful, we will discuss in the higher classes under the microbes in human welfare. Coletotrichum, what it is doing? Red rot of sugarcane, right? So few examples we are discussing and comparing the major 4 classes under the kingdom fungi. What is the first? Here will be Phycomycetes, then Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes. Can you say me which out of all is known as imperfect fungi? Give me the response over there, right? Which among the following you call it as imperfect fungi? Okay, let me to proceed further. This is the Deuteromycetes, clear? Now coming to the next part, we discussed how many kingdoms? We discussed first Monera, then we discussed protista, then we discussed fungi. In biological classification chapter, you are having these 3 kingdoms in much more detail. Kingdom Animalia, Kingdom Plantae are different in further chapters, but still we are classifying between that the major points. Plant kingdom members, can I say they are chlorophyll containing eukaryotic organisms, whereas Animalia heterotrophic eukaryotic organism. Cell wall will be present in the plant kingdom members, whereas the cell wall will be lacking in case of the animal kingdom. And reserve food material is the starch. Here the reserve food material is what thing? Glycogen, right? Then after this, indefinite growth. Indefinite growth means they keep on growing throughout the life. What that? Plants. But some specific organs are there. Can I say leaves are there? Even if I am saying fruits are there, flowers are there, these are showing definite growth. Definite growth means they will stop after some time. The growth will stop after some time, but overall plant is showing indefinite growth. Whereas animals will show definite growth because they will stop growing after certain age, right? Then is what thing? Locomotion is absent in case of plant because they need not to move in the search of food. They can make their own food. Who has to move for the search of food? That will be animals. Are you getting that? Animals are moving in the search of the food. So locomotion can be shown there. They are having neuromotor type of the system which coordinate with each other and helps them to move and to think and to search for their food wherever it is, or shelter we can say, right? Now coming to the next part is this. Let me to talk about, we are discussing 5 kingdom classification. First kingdom, I repeat, we discussed Monera, then we discussed protista, then we discussed fungi, then a slide journal features about Plantae and Animalia, as we have separate chapters for these 2 kingdoms, right? But H.Whittaker, what is one of the reason for its failure is that, one of the reason I am saying, it was not classifying, 5 kingdom classification was not classifying the viruses, viroids and the prions, and add on to that the lichens as well. These all are what thing? acellular structures which do not have independent existence. Right? And this lichens is the combination of alga and the fungi. Right? So in which group we should classify? This is cellular. This is cellular organism. But they cannot live independently, viruses, viroids and prions. What are viroids and prions? We will take later on. Slightly I am taking the description small of viruses, then I will take for lichens. The H.Whittaker failed to classify viruses, viroid, prions and lichens. Why these three? Because they are not living and even they are not non-living. When they are in the body of the host, then we call it as living, but outside independently they are non-living, and this classification is about living organism. Lichens is a combination of alga and the fungi, but they are in different kingdom. So lichens we should classify in plant or it under the fungi. It is a confusion, that's why it is not getting place in 5 kingdom classification, right? Now let's see the some highlights of the viruses. Viruses, just now I said you, it is acellular and even it is what thing? It is not true living. This is important. Next, it is inert, means it is not reacting with anything when it is outside. It is crystalline structures, the things which are dead, only that can be in a form of crystal. They are non-living outside. But once in coming in contact of the living cells like human, plants or bacteria or any other living organism, they will start multiplying in their body. They are intracellular type of obligate parasite. What I said you? Intracellular. Obligate parasite. Obligate means compulsory. Intra means inside the cell of their host. They will multiply, only then you can say living. Right? According to the cell, the unit of life chapter, we say the unicellular organisms are even there. But they should have independent existence. These viruses, viroid and prions, they don't have independent existence. That's why we cannot classify into the 5 kingdom classification, right? Then after this, if I say viruses, these are 2 common structures which you will find in your NCERT book frequently. This is a tobacco mosaic virus, this is a bacteriophage. So here they want to say that viruses, the genetic material, like here will be RNA and here will be the DNA. No virus can have both DNA as well as RNA. Either they have RNA or they can have DNA. Example of RNA containing virus is what? Tobacco mosaic virus, which is first discovered virus. And example of DNA containing virus is what thing? Bacteriophage. Now this genetic material, like this is RNA, it is covered by the protein code, which is having small, can you see the small units are there? That you call it as capsomeres, right? So here even a sheet is there, which is a complete sheet, you call it as capsid, and complete capsid is made up of this small unit. This complete even you call it as capsid, but small unit you call it as capsomere, right? So can I say viruses are made up of 2 things? Proteins and the nucleic acid. Nucleic acid can be RNA or DNA, but not both DNA and RNA, right? One student is asking, an infectious affecting plants and consisting only of nucleic acid without a protein. I am not getting your doubt. Please be more clear. Are you telling something or you are questioning on some point? You can ask this question again, right? Okay, so simply I am saying that they are infectious and consist of nucleic acid plus protein, right? So nucleic acid can be DNA or RNA. So this much short you should know about the viruses. Now coming to the next is the lichens. Just now I said you, this is the last topic now of the chapter. Lichens consists of 2 things. What is that? Phycobiont and mycobiont. I said you phyco word is related to what thing? Alga, and myco word wherever come, that belongs to what thing? Fungi, right? So here this phycobiont is an algal member Mycoplasma is a fungal member. This is preparing food for the fungus. Fungus is giving what thing? Shelter, and it absorbs water and minerals. Water and minerals for what thing? For the alga. So this combination of alga and fungus, you call it as lichens. They are cellular, they are living. But two different organisms are showing symbiotic association. Symbiotic association means both are helping each other mutually. So two different members. So it is very tough to classify that members as well, such type of organism. Some pictures are in front of you. It is of the lichens, right? Okay. So this is all about our topic, biological classification, right? So there we have discussed all about the main groups and their features over there about biological classification. This is all for today. Please do go through this topic. All for today. Thanks a lot. God bless you.